Running a maker type channel, I get a lot of emails from companies wanting me to review various products that are related to woodworking or digital fabrication. And I always try to be thoughtful about these and really only support products that I actually use in my workshop and things that I really do like and can feel good about recommending. When it comes to laser engravers and cutters, there are two categories. One is an add-on, that's an accessory for an existing CNC that you have in your shop. And the other is a dedicated standalone desktop laser engraver, which has its own framework and does solely laser work. For this second category, the xTool D1 line is the machine that I really do love. A few months ago, I published a video covering the assembly and use of the xTool D1 10-watt unit. This is a really great machine that I use in my shop all the time. I liked it so much that I built a dedicated wall cabinet to house it and protect it in my workshop. Well, xTool has now released the next version of the D1, and it's the xTool D1 Pro 20-watt. It also comes in a 10-watt and a 5-watt, but the machine we're working with today is the 20-watt version. D1 Pro has some significant improvements from the standard D1, but before we cover those, I want to just take a quick look at how easy the assembly is. In the video that I did for the D1, I went through the assembly step by step, but I'm not going to do that this time as the assembly is almost identical, and I'll put a link up here to the earlier video. There's just a couple of changes made to accommodate the limit switches, and xTool has made this so easy. They include a printed assembly instruction book with large color pictures. If you need more help, there's guided videos on their website online. And like I said, assembly is super easy. It took about 15-20 minutes from start to finish. Basically, there's 4 bolts in each corner that hold the main frame together. Then there's 4 bolts that attach the X-axis. There's a stepper motor shaft that gets installed and is coupled to one of the motors. And then there's the wiring harness, which snaps into color-coded plugs. And really that's about it. So it's very easy to assemble. The frame of the D1 Pro is made just the same as the D1. It's heavy aluminum alloy, and the frame is very beefy, very rigid. Just like the D1, the Pro has all steel rails, roller wheels for both the X and the Y axis rails. So it's very durable, very, very good framework. So as I said earlier, there have been some significant changes in the release of the D1 Pro. The first, and maybe the most obvious change, is the new 20-watt laser diode module. Well, actually, I guess the most obvious is this cool red option that's available now. But after that, it's definitely the laser module in the 20-watt. This is the most powerful diode laser that's available right now. The maximum power of any diode laser is about 6 watts. So xTool has taken 4 of these 5-watt diode lasers, housed them together in this laser module, and then the beams from these 4 lasers are reflected and combined into a single laser beam. Not only does this improve the cutting and engraving ability of this laser module, it also drastically cuts down on the time required to complete engraving and cutting jobs. And I'm going to demonstrate some of those later on in this video. On a side note, if you already have an xTool D1, you don't need to actually go out and purchase the whole D1 Pro if you want to move to 20 watts. You can purchase just the 20-watt laser head. You wouldn't get the other improvements that have been made, but you can use the 20-watt laser head on the original D1. So speaking of all this extra power, that increased power is going to allow you to cut through much thicker material, and because of this, the focal adjustment feature has been added. If you think about engraving something, the xTool has this nifty little leg that folds down, and you set the focus to the surface of your work. But in the case of cutting all the way through something like wood or acrylic, rather than having the focus on the surface of the work, you might want it to be focused more towards the center of a piece, say halfway down into the workpiece. By setting the focus on the surface and then lifting the quick focus lever, you can move the focus down into your work by using the guide on the side of the module. So if you're cutting through a 10 millimeter thick piece of something, you could move the focus 5 millimeters down from the surface of the work. Speaking of focusing the laser, I pointed out in my review of the D1 that the thumb screw that holds the Z-axis in place could use some improving. It was a little hard to reach and a little hard to actually turn and tighten. Admittedly, this was nitpicking, but the xTool company has completely revamped and eliminated any issue with this thumb screw. They've designed this cool little lever that is spring-loaded, so you can pull it away, you can rotate it to where you want it, and then you release it, and then tightening and loosening that is just a small flip of that lever. Works out very well. So another big improvement on the Pro has been the addition of limit switches. This is a really good one. Limit switches help in a couple of ways. The first way, and the one that I really appreciate, is that they prevent the laser head from traveling too far in any direction and slamming into one of the side rails or the front or back rail. If you get a little careless or your mind wanders, it can be easy to click the move button too many times and actually run the laser module into one of the rails. With the limit switches in place, if the laser head is moving and reaches the limit switch, the movement will stop and an alarm will sound, and then you just push the main button on the front of the machine to reset the alarm and you can continue working. Another cool feature is there are limit switches on both sides of the x-axis, left and right, also front and back of the y-axis. So in any direction it prevents the laser module from hitting one of the rails. xTool has used optical switches here, so there's no physical contact with the switch. With a lever switch, this happens a lot in CNC work. You can hit that switch and actually crush it. These are optical switches that have actually no contact. So the second way that limit switches help is that they allow you to home your machine. So you can always get back to a specific starting point for any job if you're doing repetitive work. In the case of my machine, it's the left rear corner. And so you can always start there and always get back to where you were. If you ended up losing power or for some reason shut the machine off or cancel the job, you can always get back by using that home. Another big improvement was the electronics upgrade. xTool states that their new algorithm, coupled with this 20-watt laser head, allows increased travel speeds up to 400 millimeters per second or 24,000 millimeters per minute. They've also added a couple of safety features which are really nice. The first being the tilt alarm. This feature simply shuts down the laser and sounds an audible alarm if the machine gets tilted more than about 13 degrees while it's running. And then to reset it, you just simply press the button on the front of the machine. There's also a flame detector alarm on this machine. In simple terms, if you think about laser engravers, they engrave and cut by burning things, right? So it makes sense that there is a remote chance that something could catch fire while being engraved or cut. The D1 Pro has a flame alarm that detects a flame lasting 3 seconds or longer and will shut the machine completely down. When this is triggered, just like the tilt alarm, you press the button on the front of the machine and it resets that alarm. Another improvement that I noticed from the D1 to the D1 Pro is that the fan on the top of the laser module only runs when the gantry is in motion. This isn't a huge deal, but it is nice not to have the fan noise in between jobs. The D1 Pro comes with several sample pieces to do some testing and includes some aluminum business cards, a couple of pieces of wood, some cork, even some glass circles for testing. Later on, I'm going to do some testing on several of these pieces and we'll see how that looks. They also include this aluminum plate to protect the bed of your table that you're on when doing cutting. It's not as effective as a honeycomb bed would be, but it does help protect the table if you're doing a full cut through. Here's a test of engraving on that glass. I sprayed it with a little bit of this coating to help the laser have something to burn rather than just passing through the glass, and it turned out pretty well. This is a slate coaster. On my review of the D1, I engraved a slate coaster, and I did it at 100% power and 1,000 millimeters per minute. So on this one, I did it at 2,000 millimeters per minute at 100% power, and it worked great. It actually probably could have gone a little bit faster. I think it might have got a little bit hot, so I probably could have gone to 2,500 millimeters a minute. Here I'm messing around trying to find some settings to cut through this 8mm acrylic. I think I ended up doing 2 passes at 700 millimeters per minute. You can see how nice and clean the edges are. The D1 Pro comes already set up for air assist. The air compressor is not included, that's a separately sold item, but the laser module is all set up for the air assist connection, so installing air assist just takes a minute. The rotary tool has been completely revamped for the Pro, and it has this cool chuck-like device with 3 jaws on it, and with different connections and different fittings you can hold pretty much anything. It also has a little outrigger stand to support items that are not completely straight or items that are too long to fit on the rotary tool, and it's really super versatile and can be used to hold and rotate just about anything. Another improvement is the software that is offered with this machine. Previous offering from xTool was a program called LaserBox, and while this program did work and it created and ran certain laser jobs on the D1, it did have some limitations that sometimes made it necessary to find another software package such as Lightburn to run the machine. Well, xTool has made a complete dramatic change to their software package with the release of this machine. The new package is called xTool Creative Space. You can go there and look at all the cool features that this software package offers. It really is a full-service laser engraving application now. If you're new to lasers, definitely check out this new software, and it will likely provide everything that you need. So in conclusion, as I said at the beginning, I really like the original xTool D1 that I've had in my shop, and the improvements that xTool has made to the D1 Pro have only made me like it more. If you're interested in a laser engraver, I can't recommend this one highly enough. I'll leave an affiliate link in the description if you're interested, and using that will help support this channel, and I really do appreciate any support I get. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye.